easier to say. Not concerned about how to live instead. Just open your eyes and take my advice. Stop rolling the dice and just compromise. It's the chance of your life. Okay, try to be brave. You have so much to save. Take control of your own life. Right now, every mistake makes you feel like a fake. Take control of your own life. Nothing in life is good. Tired and misunderstood. I would fight if I could. If I believed I should. Okay, try to be brave. You have so much to say. Take control of your own life. Okay, try to be brave. You have so much to save. Take control of your own life. Right now, every mistake makes you feel like a fake. Take control of your own life.
Welcome to Cyber Threat Intel, your go-to source for the latest updates, news, and insights on cyber threats. Our goal is to arm you with the knowledge to protect yourself in the digital age, whether you're a cybersecurity professional or just curious about the threats lurking in the digital shadows. Make sure to subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast listening platform to join us on the front lines of cybersecurity, because in the world of cyber threats, knowledge is power. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 2 of Cyber Threat Intel. My name is John Good. If this is the first time that we're meeting on this channel, specifically on YouTube, where I make content all about cybersecurity, but as you may have noticed from the intro, this specific show or this specific segment is all about cyber threat intelligence. That way you are staying current with what's going on in the world. If you're either in the profession right now, or if you're trying to get into the career field, doesn't really matter. Or if you don't want to work in cybersecurity, you just want to know about what's going on in the world, right? It's all the articles and everything that's currently going on in the cyber world. So if you missed the initial episode, the pilot, I guess, if it were, the episode 1 that we had yesterday, had a lot of great news on there, a lot of great attendance, a lot of people are starting to check out the show. And of course, we're going to continue to keep on doing these episodes and talking a lot about the different articles and threats and everything that's going on in the world of cybersecurity. So it looks like so far today we're a little bit light. Give them a few minutes for people to show up. And while that happens, I'll go ahead and talk about some of the show notes that we have. So definitely use these for CPE. So if you have certifications already in cybersecurity, IT, whatever, you can use these for CPEs. So you can do continuing education credits to maintain your current status there, which is great because that's always a challenge for anybody in this career field. Is trying to get all of those CPEs and just stay on top of them and really just maintain the certifications, right? It's not as easy as just paying the fee there. But so use these as CPEs or CEUs. As far as how you can find the show, so we are doing live streams for the show on the John Good Cyber YouTube channel. So if you're watching live right now, that's where you're watching it on the channel. If you just want the audio only version, so you want to listen in a podcast format, then you can do it a couple different ways. you can go to your popular podcasting platform. So your favorite platform, whether that's iTunes, Spotify, whatever, right? Like there's a whole bunch of them. And you can check it out there. We're on all the major ones. Or you can go to cyberthreatintel.com. That's cyberthreatintel.com. And you can find the different episodes on there. Or you can find a direct link to the show on the different podcasting platforms. So again, there's a whole bunch of them. It's not just Spotify and iTunes and those. There's a whole bunch of them that are on there. But you can find it that way. Also, if you want to see the actual articles that we're going through, you want to read the full article or reference it later, maybe you're watching the replay, something like that, then you can also go to cyberthreatintel.com. There's a link to the article feeds right on there, and you'll be able to see the exact articles that we are going through on here as well. As far as sponsorships, if you're a company that is looking to, you want to sponsor some content, definitely hit me up and we can talk about that as well. We are always looking for sponsors that want to support the show, support the content, as well as just the viewers. If you want to join the membership program for YouTube or anything like that, then that's always appreciated as well. Also, make sure to check out Cyber Training Pro, because that is where I put my full-length courses, as well as my career coaching, resume services, all those kinds of things. So with that being said, let me go ahead and pull up the articles here. All right. All right. Let's make this full screen here. I don't know why that went. There we go. Okay, cool. All right. So first article, cyber attack knocks out Pensacola city government phone lines. So the city government of Pensacola, Florida is dealing with widespread phone outages due to a cyber attack announced over the weekend. Is this something that you heard about? Emergency phone numbers like 911 are still operating, and Wheeler said, which is the chief spokesperson, that non-emergency numbers can be used to contact the Pensacola Police Department and Fire Department. The city has also created alternate phone numbers for the Energy Department, Sanitation, Public Works, Engineering, Housing, and other departments. So we talked about something very similar to this yesterday, as far as, you know, when you have critical services, especially like a city government, right? They have things like fire departments, they have police departments, they have sanitation, life support systems, like all these different things. And what is your contingency plan for those? Now, if you've ever dealt with the NIST risk management framework, you have these different levels for the CIA triad, right? So different levels of criticality for the controls and everything like that. And when you start getting things like high availability systems, that's because people's lives depend on them, right? Like they are very, very critical, is usually when those start to be high availability ratings. But that's an important thing, right? Especially for a city. You don't want your 911 services to be down, right? Because people are just going to run chaos and they're just going to go crazy and start doing all the bad things that they shouldn't do. And so this is kind of one of those situations where you need a contingency plan. Now, it's not just for cities, right? It's for companies in general, business continuity, disaster recovery. All those things are cybersecurity 101, right? They're part of every compliance certification that you could imagine. They are just standard things if you're evaluating a security program, whether you're a customer, internal, whatever, right? Auditor, those kinds of things. But you do need those contingencies. Now that does flow back to understanding what services you have, what's critical to your organization, right? What's the critical data? What's the critical business processes? As a cybersecurity professional, you may or may not be aware of that just inherently because of your job, right? A lot of times you're probably not. And you need those business leaders or those managers, those people that are actually doing it, right, from the business to help you understand what needs to be protected, what is critical. So those relationships really matter, and understanding what is important to the business. That's why in cybersecurity, we are not just a siloed area, right? We have to have understanding of the business to better implement security, to make things better overall, and not hinder the business, right? Make sure that if something happens, because things do happen, that they are protected. So really, it's always an interesting scenario when something like this pops up, right? Let's see here, what else? Wheeler declined to answer questions about whether the incident involved ransomware, if the attackers had identified themselves, and if a ransom had been paid, right? Whenever a scenario like this happens, I think that initially a lot of people jump to that ransomware idea, that it's a ransomware attack because it's something so chaotic or something so unforeseen that it's got to be ransom, right? It's got to be some kind of attack like that, not just a configuration change or something basic that is taking down the network. Over the weekend, the Pensacola News Journal said Wheeler notified them of the attack, reiterating that emergency services like police and fire were not affected by the outages, right? It's critical those stay up. The city has faced ransomware attackers before, so this is key, dealing with hackers from the Maze ransomware gang during an incident in 2019. So attackers, hacker groups, ransomware groups, right? They will retest you if you've been tested. So if your organization has been hit, you better expect that they're going to come after you again at some point, and you can't just ignore the previous scenario. You've got to actually do things that are going to help improve your security and prevent those things from happening in the future. Let's see, previously, so this previous scenario, the gang stole 2 gigabytes of data, but the city refused to pay the ransom, instead spending about $300,000 to recover from the incident, according to the Pensacola News Journal. The city was forced to notify more than 57,000 people that their information had been accessed during the attack. So this is another trend that we're seeing with a lot of companies, organizations, governments, things like that, is that they are not paying these ransoms, which good on you if you can survive that and not pay the ransom, right? Because that is how these organizations continue to do the things that they do, because you're going to pay them, in this case, $300,000. And now they have $300,000 that they can use to either hire more criminals or ransomware gang members or whatever, right? They can buy exploits. They can do all kinds of things, right? So if they don't have money, then they can't do a lot of this stuff. But that's kind of how it domino effects, right? They just get paid, and then they get paid more, they get paid again and again, and they can just keep funding their efforts, just like a business, right? If you have profit, you can reinvest that profit and do other things to continue the business. All right, next article here. 133,000 plus Fortinet appliances still vulnerable to CVE 2024-21762. The volume of Fortinet boxes exposed to the public internet and vulnerable to a month-old critical security flaw in FortiOS, which is their operating system, is still extremely high despite a gradual increase in patching. According to security nonprofit Shadow Server's latest data, the number of Fortinet appliances vulnerable to CVE 2024-21762 stands at more than 133,000, down only slightly from more than 150,000 10 days prior. Fortinet patched CVE 2024-21762 in early February, well over a month ago, so we are almost into April here. It's a 9.6 out of 10 severity vulnerability that leads to remote code execution, RCE, and appeared front and center during Fortinet's Week to Forget last month. So when I think about something like this, as far as vulnerabilities and patch management and taking care of these issues, right? This is why it's important to track vendors, to watch press releases, to watch shows or listen to shows like Cyber Threat Intel, and be aware of what's going on, because this stuff is going to come up and it's going to affect a lot of different organizations, right? If you're running Fortinet boxes, chances are this might affect you, right? So it's a good idea to track those kinds of things. Now, as far as patch management, when you're looking at the overall patch management process, you obviously have to look at severity. So like with this one, 9.6 out of 10 severity vulnerability is the score that it's given, because it allows remote code execution, right? There's all these different severities or levels to these different types of attacks, like remote code execution and all these other different things, SQL injection and stuff like that. But as that score goes up and it gets more severe, then you obviously have to address it more expeditiously or faster, right? When you're looking at different patch management strategies, typically you have it based on severity. So for instance, a critical vulnerability, you might remediate that in like a week or a couple weeks, right? Depending on how, your program is structured. Then you have high vulnerabilities and medium vulnerabilities and low vulnerabilities and informational. So as you go down the list, you basically get more time to remediate those because those are considered less risky vulnerabilities, or there's less threat of those if they're exploited, what they could ultimately do, the impact of those. So it's very important as you get like this, which would be, definitely a critical kind of vulnerability, that you have to remediate it very quickly, because you can see this, a month later, there's still a ton of devices that are out there vulnerable. So that's a serious lack of patch management process to update that operating system. When it was first disclosed by Fortinet, the vendor said that there was evidence of it being used as a 0-day. So there was already evidence before this was even released or disclosed that attackers or hacker gangs were out there exploiting this vulnerability, and they already knew about it. The U.S. Government Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, so CISA, soon corroborated this by adding it to the known exploited vulnerability, the KEV catalog, thereby requiring all federal agencies to patch it within a tight deadline. So as you can see, something like this with the government agency really being strict on how fast that needs to be remediated. And that should tell you something, right? Like if you see that in your organization, you should understand that you really need to act fastly if a government organization especially is really putting their foot down and requiring that to be fixed very quickly. And so there's some more information in that article, definitely worth reading if you're interested in Fortinet devices or knowing more about that vulnerability. Next article, Nation's Direct Mortgage alerts 83,000 to personal data leaks from December cyber attack. Nevada-based Nation's Direct Mortgage said more than 83,000 customers were affected by a late 2023 data breach that leaked Social Security numbers and other sensitive information. In filings with regulators in Maine and California, the company said it discovered a cybersecurity incident on December 30th that prompted an investigation. Law enforcement and other governmental agencies were notified of the cyber attack. They have a quote in here that says the investigation has determined that an unauthorized third party obtained access to, potentially removed data of certain individuals from across the country. The company said to letters to victims. Based on our investigation, we understand that your name, address, social security number, and unique Nation's direct loan number may have been obtained by the unauthorized third-party bad actor. And then it says, title insurance company First American and another large retail mortgage lender, Loan Depot, announced attacks in December and January that caused widespread problems for home buyers. So something like this, right? Like a mortgage application company, a mortgage company, they take a lot of information in on people. So security numbers, the amount of money that you make, like those kinds of things, those important things, right? And if an attacker can get access to that information, that's a serious thing, right? It's not just about mortgages, right? Maybe the attackers are not trying to take out another mortgage under your name, most likely, right? Maybe they're just trying to open up another credit card, get a $20,000, $30,000 credit line under your name, run it up, and then run off, right? So anytime social security numbers are exchanged, especially because, for instance, in the United States, that's a key number, right? Like that's tied to a lot of information about you, a lot of your ability to do things like getting loans, getting credit cards, purchasing big things, right? Like all those kinds of things. That's a very important number. And that identifies you as an individual in the United States. And so it's really important that those are protected. It's part of compliance certifications and security requirements for those. If it's PII, so social security number and stuff like that. So really important that those are protected. Next article, tech giant Fujitsu says it was hacked, warns of data breach. Multinational technology giant Fujitsu confirmed a cyber attack in a statement on Friday and warned that hackers may have stolen personal data and customer information. Here's another personal data breach. We confirmed the presence of malware on multiple work computers, and this is a quote, at our company, and as a result of our internal investigation, we discovered that files containing personal information and customer information could be illegally taken out, said Fujitsu in a statement on its website translated from Japanese. Fujitsu said that it disconnected the affected systems from its network and is investigating how its network was compromised by malware and whether information has been leaked. So they are not sure that if that information has been leaked yet. And it sounds like they're still trying to kind of put the pieces back together of this attack and what happened, where they went, those kinds of things, right? Fujitsu also did not say what kind of personal information may have been stolen because they might not know, right? Or who the personal information pertains to. Again, they might not know, such as its employees, corporate customers, or citizens whose government uses the company's technology. A lot of times, a statement like that means that they don't know. They're still trying to figure it out. They're still trying to put the pieces together. Just so you're aware, right? Like if you ever see that about a company that you use, that's pretty typical verbiage that is used when that happens, right? Fujitsu said it reported the incident to Japan's Data Protection Authority, Personal Information Protection Commission, in anticipation, and that's in quotes, that personal information may have been stolen. Again, perfect verbiage as far as saying, or if you read between the lines, that they do not know for sure, right? And so as a cybersecurity professional, that is the kind of stuff that you should understand is being said when they make statements like that, because, you could be a customer of theirs personally. Your business could be a customer of theirs, right? And so it's important for you to kind of get ahead of these breaches and understand what's being said and being able to decipher what's actually being said. Next article here. This is an interesting one. So Department of Homeland Security lays out AI plans and new roadmap. The Department of Homeland Security in the United States on Monday released its first ever artificial intelligence roadmap, which is meant to spell out the agency's current use of the technologies and its plans for the future. I think that deserves a clap, right? They're looking at using artificial intelligence. That's amazing. Key points include a forthcoming DHS-wide policy directive on artificial intelligence, new guidance from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, so CISA, focused on AI security, and an expected report from the Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Office focused on the technology's risks. The roadmap also highlights several ways that the agency plans to use or is already using artificial intelligence, including the tracking of suspicious vehicle patterns at the border and assessing damage to buildings after disasters. The unprecedented speed and potential of AI's development and adoption presents both enormous opportunities to advance our mission and risks we must mitigate, DHS Security Secretary Alejandro N. Mayorkas said in a press release. And then it says, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services is considering using LLMs to train officers working with refugee and asylum applicants, while Homeland Security Investigations Agency's investigative arm is looking at using the technology to look for patterns in documents being analyzed as part of investigations. And it says the roadmap comes as the agency ramps up to work on artificial intelligence. Last month, DHS announced that it would hire 50 new AI experts for its AI core. So they're going to be hiring people to work on AI, right? Like that's a pretty standard thing. We talk a lot about artificial intelligence lately, especially in the last year or so, right? That's when it's really boosted up, year and a half. And so it's interesting to see these different kind of implementations or these different organizations, different entities that are starting to use artificial intelligence and how they're going to use it. Now, I remember several years ago, actually talking to a PhD program where they were doing some research kind of on some of the border stuff, or being able to use artificial intelligence within cameras to recognize people and do all these kinds of things, right? Super interesting and definitely useful if they can get it right? But that's kind of where the problem is a lot of times with artificial intelligence, especially in this kind of scenario. If you start looking at like people and stuff, that can get a little bit gray, a little bit sketchy, right? Like that's where there tends to be a lot of issues. But also remember, these kinds of systems, what kind of security controls they have in place? What kind of data do they process? What do they store? Where is that data transferred to? Who can access it, right? These are all things that are not just issues in the sense of the technology being developed, right? Like the technology itself, but how is it implemented, right? How secure is that implementation? So there's all kinds of different aspects that you have to consider with new technology. And if you're not learning about artificial intelligence right now or AI and you have no idea what's going on with it, you probably should look into it at least a little bit, read a couple white papers, go check out a few articles, see if there's a course on it that you want to take, right? Do something along those lines so that you have a little bit more understanding of artificial intelligence, because that will impact all of us eventually, right? If it hasn't reached you yet, because companies are wanting to leverage that technology. They're wanting to create different AI models and things like that, depending on what, the company does. But you have Google and OpenAI and Microsoft and all these other companies that touch a lot of organizations because, a lot of organizations use their products. So, but interesting to see DHS starting to use that. FTC investigating Reddit plan to sell user content for AI model training. Federal Trade Commission, FTC, in the US is probing Reddit's decision to license its user-generated content to artificial intelligence companies, which would use it in turn to train models. Social media platform said in a Friday securities filing. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, disclosure comes ahead of Reddit's much-hyped initial public offering, their IPO. Reddit launched almost 20 years ago, and it will be the first social media company to go public since Pinterest did in 2019. The FTC, and this is a quote, the FTC staff is conducting a non-public inquiry focused on our sale, licensing, or sharing of user-generated content with third parties to train AI models. Reddit disclosed in its IPO filing, saying it received a letter from the agency on Thursday. Reddit said it believes its plans do not break consumer protection laws. The agency's probe would likely focus on whether Reddit's plans qualify as an unfair or deceptive practice, which would violate Section 5 of the FTC Act. So if we're thinking about this, right, like what is there to focus on here? Well, Reddit is going to use user-generated content to train AI models, right? Like they're going to license that ability for companies to train their AI models based on that user-generated content. What could possibly go wrong, right? What could possibly go wrong? It's like, no! Right? That's just, that's going to be an interesting one, right? If you look at all the content that is put out there in the world on social media platforms, things like that, there are so many bad resources out there. I mean, let's be honest, right? Like there's a lot of incorrect, bad information that's just not good, right? So if these companies are able to use that bad information along with the good information, right, and train their AI models based on that data, right? What if a user or a bad actor or something like that generated so much bad content, but it wasn't known to be bad content, and these models just start ingesting it, and then all of a sudden these models are just destroyed because they have all this bad data ingested, right? Like that seems like a bad idea, for one, just because of that, right? The other thing is that Reddit is selling off data, trying to make a quick buck just on the data that you've put out there. So, Reddit is an interesting environment in general, right? It's not always the most friendly place to be, but this is just, it's another step in an interesting life of Reddit, right? They've had their fair share of controversy for sure. So, and this doesn't change that. All right. Next article here, Finland, Germany, Ireland, Japan, Poland, South Korea added to the US-led spyware agreement. 6 new countries have joined an international effort to counter the proliferation and misuse of commercial spyware. Finland, Germany, Ireland, Japan, and Poland and South Korea were added to a previously released joint statement from the US and 10 other countries about the need for regulation and guardrails on spyware. Anybody heard of Pegasus, right? Yeah, Pegasus. Every time Pegasus comes up in the news, I'm just like, no! Because it comes up a lot, right? Like it feels like it hasn't come up as much lately, but definitely over the years, it's shown its head a lot. The signees agree to establish robust guardrails and procedures around spyware, prevent the export of technology that will be used for malicious cyber activity, share information on spyware proliferation, and work to raise awareness globally. As authoritarian and repressive regimes deploy technologies to undermine democracy and human rights, we need to ensure the technology sustains and supports democratic values and norms, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Monday at the summit. During a press call, a senior Biden administration official said some of the new countries were notable, particularly Ireland, because of their role in the spyware industry. Ireland is listed as the home of Intellexa Limited and Thailstris Limited, two companies sanctioned by the US on March 5th for their involvement in distributing spyware. Several spyware vendors have sought to use Ireland essentially as a financial pass-through for some of their activities, the official said. So yeah, spyware is always an interesting scenario. And hey, how's it going, Shabu? Is that how you say it? Let me know if that's not how you say it. But how's it going? Great to see you in here. But spyware is always, an interesting discussion, right? We see spyware popping up from a lot of different countries, a lot of different areas, a lot of different use cases, right? In some countries, we've seen actually politicians or journalists, roles like that bring light to a lot of things. We've seen them targeted by spyware used by the governments. Technically, a lot of these spyware companies say that you cannot buy the spyware software like Pegasus unless you are a government agency or entity, right? So there's always some controversy there as far as like, is that true? And then when these governments buy it, they can just basically use it however they want in their countries. And so we've seen a ton of controversy around spyware. Now, it's interesting to see a lot of these countries start to join together, right, to band together and kind of work together on this as far as regulating spyware, especially when we see a lot of these different countries, show up in the news using spyware, right? But I think in general, it's a good thing, right? A lot of these spyware companies have some shaky business practices, we'll say. But yeah, I guess we'll kind of see how this plays out. I think that's usually kind of the reaction that I tend to get when I see these articles about spyware, basically, because it seems like there's a clear direction, like these countries are kind of working together, but then it kind of falls off the map, right? Like it stops being talked about as much. And then a year or two goes by and it's like, okay, now let's talk about spyware again, right? So I feel like we hear a lot more about the software, the spyware software and the different vendors that are making it and things like that than we do about the actual actions that are being taken to prevent the use of spyware. So this is kind of a shift in that. So Shu Abu, is that right? Let me know if that was right. But great to have you on the live stream here. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the spyware stuff. Next article, United Health Group cyber attack status update. United Group continues to make progress in mitigating the impact of consumers and care providers on the unprecedented cyber attack on the U.S. health system and the Change Healthcare services while continuing to expand financial assistance to affected providers. Today, Change Healthcare will begin releasing medical claims preparation software, an important step in the resumption of services. There's a quote, "We continue to make significant progress in restoring the services impacted by the cyber attack," said Andrew Whitty, CEO of United Health Group. "We know this has been an enormous challenge for healthcare providers, and we encourage any in need to contact us." So when we're talking about healthcare providers, this is kind of just like the government agencies and the government services that we talked about in the earlier article, right? Healthcare has to be available. That's one of those things that can be really bad if somebody can't get access to their healthcare, they can't charge their provider, they can't get the services they need, right? There are certain things or certain services, organizations in the world, right, that people just need when they need them, like they really need them, right? Healthcare tends to be one of those because it's like if you need emergency surgery or you need some kind of care, you don't want a healthcare provider to be held up because they can't provide that service or because, somewhere in that flow, they can't charge your provider or, whatever it is, right? That's just one of those things that people need. They need healthcare, they need food, they need sanitization, they need police services, they need fire services. These are all things that are needed to varying degrees, right? It depends on the situation, obviously. But in general, these are things that basically people need and people can't, in a lot of cases, survive without. So it's always interesting to see when some of these healthcare groups get attacked. Now, we did see before that some of the ransomware groups and things like that, they are very specific with who they can go after, right? Like they can't go after things that are like life threatening, right? So if they go after a healthcare system of, I don't know, like breathing machines or something like that, where people just absolutely need them, then, that's not allowed. And they say they will ban people for going against those kind of services if they use their ransomware software or their malware, right? But it's always interesting to just see kind of the line where people draw, especially these attackers, these hackers, where that line of morality and like ethics is, like what they will go after, and what they won't go after, right? It's always interesting. So let's see, and that is the last article for today. So with that being said, that is the last article for the day. Again, make sure to check out Cyber Training Pro if you need cybersecurity training or if you need career coaching, resume services, anything like that. Also, make sure to check out the description because there will be a link to the resources. You can also go to cyberthreatintel.com, and that will also give you the article feed so you can check out these specific articles that we have gone through. You can check out the audio format of this. So if you want to listen to the audio version, or you can just go to your favorite podcasting platform, we're on all of those. If you want to join the live stream or the actual recording of this, then you can go to the John Good Cyber YouTube channel, and we have it on there as well. Also sponsorships. If you are a company and you're interested in sponsoring content, sponsoring the show, then definitely hit me up. And let's see here. We have a comment here in the chat as well before we kind of wrap up here. I've got an interview in 2 days and was checking out your video on cybersecurity interview questions. Very informative. I already feel more confident. If you have extra tips, be grateful. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Good luck on your interview. There is a lot of information already on the channel too, on the YouTube channel, as far as actually nailing those interviews and really doing well. So definitely check out the interview playlist because I have one on there that has a ton of questions, how to answer the questions, and how to approach it as well. So that would be a good piece of advice as far as getting ready for your interview. But not to sidetrack off the cyber threat intel stuff, but again, check out the description, check out cyberthreatintel.com. And if you're interested in sponsoring content, make sure to hit me up as well. If you need training, career services, resume, feedback, things like that, check out cybertrainingpro.com. But with that being said, again, this was episode 2. This is March 19th, 2024. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one.